This episode is brought to you by Weldwood Marketing, Buzzshot, Cogs by Clockwork Dog, Hive, the race to save time, and Patreon supporters like you. Cogs by Clockwork Dog is an easy-to-use software-hardware platform for running interactive events, including escape rooms, haunts, and other immersive experiences. Their plug-and-play hardware seamlessly integrates with their software, so you can create a game with any type of puzzle logic, lighting, and sound cues without having to write a single line of code. One of the cool things about Cogs, David, is that you can remotely access and control your setup via local area network or the internet. This means that you can access the software through a browser window. You don't have to install the software on all of your devices. What's really useful about this feature is that you can access what they call headless machines. These are computers without screens or keyboards that can boot Cogs automatically and start running your show.
This is exactly what we did at Recon with the cool prop that we hid out on the show floor.
And one of the other things that I really loved about the remote access capabilities is that as an owner, you can oversee multiple games at once, or what I think might be even more handy is that you can log in from home or anywhere else and you can troubleshoot an issue with your game masters. So maybe now you can finally take that vacation you've been dreaming about, but you can still keep an eye on things remotely. Get the COG starter set for only $130 with free shipping to the USA. This bundle is normally valued at $257. You can learn more and purchase your starter set at cogs.show. Use code REPOD at checkout. That's REPOD. Make sure to follow them on Instagram or Facebook at COGS app for the latest news. Link and details in the show notes.
Welcome to the Reality Escape Pod, your lifeline when you need a getaway from the real world. I'm David Spira, alongside my co-host, PG Law. Together, we're exploring immersive gaming from all angles, and we'll be joined by guests who really know their stuff. Today's guest is from Sydney, Australia. We're interviewing Stephen Medway, game designer and CEO at the Pandemonium Institute, makers of the tabletop game Blood on the Clocktower, which has reimagined and improved upon social deduction games in every conceivable way. Welcome, Stephen.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Reimagined. I think it's more of a totally original game that has nothing to do with anything that's come before it, as all game designers think. As all game designers incorrectly think.
I can see that you need to be pumped up a little bit more. So
Yeah.
So I do want to say that for me, though, I do think this is one of the most well-balanced social deduction games that I've played, and I played a lot. So I'm just so excited to talk to you and to dig in a little bit more to this game. But before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't just start at the absolute basics. So how do you explain the core concept of a social deduction game? What does that mean to you?
If no one's played a social deduction game before, this is a social game. This is a talking game or a murder mystery game or a game about secret identities where it's mostly based around talking. I think that cuts right to the core and that gets the idea across to a lot of people about what is this game about. It's about getting together and talking and finding out each other's in-game secrets, something like that.
I prefer hit and roll.
Yeah, hit and roll's good.
For me, I always think of most people have probably experienced some form of werewolf or mafia. For me, mafia around a campfire as a teenager was how I found this style of game. I did this 3-week backpacking trip, and every single night around the campfire, we would play a game of Mafia or more. And over the course of that 3 weeks, I fell in love with Mafia and then fell out of love with Mafia, as I felt like we had explored so much of the space that existed in having very simple mechanics of people who were on the side of good and people who were the betrayers. And one of the things that Blood on the Clocktower has really done for me is reinvigorate something that I felt was a very stale and couldn't even imagine a way to breathe life back into when it comes to this genre.
Thank you for saying so. I had a similar experience. There's some very good reasons to fall in love with Mafia or Werewolf. If you've never played, it's one of those games you have to play before you die. It's so unique, so interesting, and it opens up fun parts of what a game can be. Being able to outwit and to enjoy being outwitted, and to play on a social level of telling the truth and lying, assuming it's in the right environment, a sort of fun with friends. I wouldn't recommend hyper competition for someone's first game, but it's a totally unique experience that is just so worth having. But it's also quite limited in that when a lot of the strategy is body language, you get to a point where you've seen everything. There's lots more to be gained at elite play, but for the beginner play, I found that you quite quickly get to that point where you're like, this is fun, but I want more.
I always found myself very frustrated with games like Mafia or Werewolf because there didn't really seem to be a tangible way to suss out who had what role besides, as you said, vibes or body language. And so that brings me to what I do really love about Blood on the Clocktower is that you've provided a lot of mechanisms and mechanics for players to use kind of a logical deductive reasoning. And it's not solely based on vibes, even though that is a big part of it. And so again, I'm going to ask you to explain what is this game to folks who have never heard of it before. How do you explain Blood on the Clocktower?
All right, I can explain it, but I need some intuitive participation.
Okay.
We're here.
All right. In the sleepy town of Ravenswood Bluff, on the stroke of midnight, during a hellish thunderstorm, you hear a scream.
Ah!
Yeah. And you all rush to the town square to find that your beloved storyteller, which is usually myself, has been murdered.
Oh, no.
Oh, my.
My body impaled on the hour hand of the clock tower, blood dripping onto the cobblestones below.
I definitely was not the person who killed PG.
That's exactly what the demon would say. Everyone gets together and figures out that this is the work of a nefarious demon, a demon that kills by night and takes on human form by day. Blood on the Clocktower is a game of murder and mystery, lies and truth, team building and betrayal, and a game of secret identities. So every player gets secretly a good or an evil character. The good team, using their wits and their words, has to figure out who the demon is, and the evil team has to lie and deceive their fellow players, and through pointing at a player at nighttime, when everyone's eyes are closed, killing one player at a time until the evil team has won the game. Blood on the Clocktower is essentially a game of putting all the information that you get as a good team together to build a team to figure out who is good and who is evil, whilst the evil players are spreading misinformation to confuse and disrupt that process. So it's a social game about lies and deception and truth-telling and truth-building.
And sometimes the good players are spreading deception as well, sometimes not even knowing it.
Yes, there is a mechanic in the game called drunkenness and poisoning. If you are drunk, you do not know that you are drunk, but the storyteller, the referee for the game, will pretend that you have your ability when you really don't. So if you are a character that has a special power, your power does not work, but you don't know why it doesn't work. If you are a character that wakes at night to gain information, for example, there's a character called the empath, and you will wake it during the night phase of the game to learn if the players sitting next to you, how many of them are evil. If you are drunk or if you're poisoned, the storyteller will be lying to you. You will be getting false information. You won't know that it's false, and you will be happily and unhelpfully sharing your incorrect information with your fellow good players. So being drunk and poisoned is a ton of fun for at least some players in the game some of the time. And at the end of the game, you find out if you're drunk or poisoned, and it provides an interesting twist because you never quite know what you think you know.
And it's good cover for the bad guys, too. Oh, maybe I was drunk.
It's excellent cover for the bad guys. It provides a lot of plausible deniability for the evil team. If you get caught out in a lie, you can always say, well, I might be drunk or I might be poisoned. If what I'm saying doesn't make sense, it could be because I've been given false information. I'm still good, I swear. I'm just wrong. I think there's a t-shirt that we made years ago that said, just because I'm lying doesn't mean I'm evil, or something like that. Yeah, I find it a ton of fun because I really like the idea of having an information-based social game where every single player in the game has some kind of information or a piece of the puzzle, and everyone's working together to solve a mystery. But some of those pieces of the puzzle are deliberately wrong from the evil players, and some of those pieces of the puzzle are accidentally wrong without you knowing it because you're drunk or you're poisoned.
I think one of the things that aren't emphasized enough is how much this feels like a big logic puzzle. Because of the way you have the game set up is quite a bit of the information involves where players are seated in relation to each other. And so because of that style of information, you can use that to verify information and fit together the logic of where people are seated in accordance to who is good. Two bad people are sitting next to each other, and that's a fact. That is something that you can build your whole case on.
Yep.
Especially once you start to mix that information in with the knowledge of what roles could be in the game, knowing full well that not all of them are.
I think that's important too, is that in a lot of other games, all roles are in the game, so you know exactly what you're dealing with. I like that in Blood on the Clocktower, you don't know which characters are actually in the game. Or you often don't even know what type of demon you're facing and what their abilities are. So not only do you have to figure out who's good and who's evil, one of the things based on what you said, PG, about like where people are sitting, all right, I know that two evil players are sitting next to each other, but I don't know where that pair is. But there's another player that thinks they've found an evil player, so I can partially verify their information. If you're telling the truth, then it means that these two players are evil. And if you're not telling the truth, then it means these two players are good, or at least one of them's evil. But also not knowing which characters are in the game. There may be no chef in the game. There may be no empath. It's a quirky and complex puzzle.
From a gameplay perspective, I often feel like if you've never played it before, the best way I think you can visualize what it might be like at certain moments in Blood on the Clocktower is to think of the scene from The Princess Bride, The Battle of Wits, where there's two glasses and there's good reason for both of them to have poison in them, and you're trying to figure out which one has poison. And it turns out in the end, they both have it. You can make a case for so much. You are solving a puzzle, but also there is so much room for chaos and gameplay that you can never really be certain until the late game, where you have enough information that you could potentially be certain and you could still be wrong.
Yeah. It was one of my design philosophies that if the game ever gets to the point where you know crucial information for certain, that should be the point where the game ends. Because playing for an hour after too much is known for certain, it's either boring or it's fun for one team and not fun for another team.
Mm-hmm.
So when the game gets to the point where you actually have figured everything out, that's what we call the final day, where everyone votes and you've got to not only put your knowledge to the test, but put your ability to convince others that you're correct to the test. And I think that's the really fun point. I like that exciting climax to the end of the game.
I do as well. So what I want to do is there's a whole bunch of different pieces of this game, and I want to explore each a little bit with some questions about them. And the first one I want to touch on is this storyteller, which is a person who is fulfilling a dungeon master-like function in Dungeons & Dragons. They're existing in a space that is playing their own sort of game, but they're also in a lot of ways outside of the game. When Blood on the Clocktower is being run the way you intended, how does that role fit into the play experience?
I look at the storyteller role as not quite a referee and not quite a player. You're a little bit of both. There are lots of points where the storyteller has either a small amount or a large amount of influence over the game, from choosing which characters are going to be in the game. In a game of 12 people, choosing which demon and which two minions are in the game will steer the game in a particular direction and provide a certain kind of puzzle for your players. At the points of misinformation, when a player is drunk or poisoned, it's the storyteller that chooses what misinformation to give to the good players. So if you have a player that is detecting the demon, and they do detect the demon, but that player is poisoned, what information do you give them? Or if the undertaker, which learns which character just died, is due to get false information, which character do you show them as the storyteller? And so there's lots of these points where the storyteller has potentially quite potent influence over the direction that the game will go. The storyteller never decides a winner or a loser, but they artfully make sure that one team isn't losing so badly that they stop having fun. For example, if the good team is just totally clueless, they're confused, they don't know what they're doing, all their information's been bogus, the storyteller can artfully put in some very helpful information that will help the good team, particularly if it's a group of beginner players, that will help the good team get a little bit of information to steer them on the right track, but not so much that you're handing them the win. What's more likely is that the storyteller is helping the evil team by supporting the evil team's bluff. If, let's say, the poisoner is bluffing as the mayor, and an in-game situation happens where the storyteller is able to give alternate or false information about the poisoner, the storyteller is encouraged to make the poisoner look like the mayor. So it's not giving the game to the evil team. It's just helping the evil team bluff, which gives the evil players confidence to try new and interesting things. So the storyteller role I look at as, yes, you're a referee, but you're a player, and your win condition is, if you get a big cheer from your players, if you get a climactic celebration, that's a win. I've had games that have been so exciting. When the storyteller declared that we won, the group jumped out of their seats and started hugging each other, jumping up and down. We actually got an official warning from the local gaming club for a noise
disturbance.
Disturbance of the other games. And I sort of looked around at how many people and how much money we were bringing into the club with 25 players. I went, yeah, that's fine. But as a storyteller, if you can get that big cheer at the end, you've won. Or if you can steer the game to the final day where it is an exciting climax, you've also won. And it's not that you've lost if you don't get there, but that's the way I look at the storyteller's role, is playing the mini game, much like a dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons, where it's, yes, you're playing the game, but your win condition is the infusion of a meaningful, exciting and fun experience for your players. And meaning is important as well.
That's one of the things that I really love about this game in particular, is that the guide has an actual role, and they're not just there distributing game mechanics and distributing information. They get to be an active part. And I think what you've hit on that, the storyteller, because I can remember the stories, the narrative of almost every single game that I've played. These were all real stories to me. And so I like that person still feels like they're part of the game, even though they're not an active player. And the other mechanic that you've brought into this that is very different from many of these similar games is the roles for eliminated players. So when a player is killed in game, they still have a place in the game, and that's wonderful. They can converse and share information. They don't suddenly give up their role and just start giving out free information. They're still part of the game. They have one vote they can cast at any point in the game, usually towards the end. And then that's it. And they do lose that role's ability, but they can still participate. And it's a beautiful set of mechanics. Players aren't just sitting around. So I guess, how did you land on the right balance of consequence for the dead players without making them feel irrelevant?
That's a really good question. That's just the best question. If you have too much consequence, if the consequence is too harsh, you end up with some form of negative experience. Either the players will stop playing the game, or there will be an unreasonable level of anxiety in trying to avoid that consequence. And that was one of the things that I found in Werewolf, is that I personally didn't mind getting killed and leaving the game. It's more that after watching the game progress for about half an hour, I just wanted to be playing the game, and I found that quite frustrating.
Or to be gone. At some point watching Werewolf where you're like, can this just end, or can I be playing? Either one is fine, but like, I just want to do something.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. That feeling, I just want to do something. It's not that you want to be fully back in the game, it's that you still want to be able to have an impact in some way. If the consequence is too light, then death becomes irrelevant. Having the right level of participation, I found just to be that one extra vote. In Clocktower, if you are killed, you lose your character ability. So dying is not something that you want to happen, but in some circumstances it is. If there's a lot of suspicion on you, you may say to the group, look, just kill me now, because there's so much suspicion on me that I don't want to be having this argument on the final day. So if you kill me now, I still get to participate. I still get to have my vote. I still get to have an impact at the most important part of the game, which is the final day, the climax. So what I found was having that final vote, it's less about participation and more about something to look forward to. They're looking forward to those final moments of the game. And because they're looking forward to those final moments where they get to have a genuine impact, participation is encouraged. So it's a roundabout method of getting participation. But for new players, a light bulb moment goes on when they realize that as a group, the dead players get more and more powerful as the game goes on. So if you're killed by the demon or if you're executed werewolf style, you become a dead player. But if you're playing with 15 players, halfway through the game, there'll be 7 or 8 dead players. But on the final day of the game, you'll have 12 dead players and 3 living players. So the dead actually become more powerful than the living as a group. So a smart dead player will not only use their vote wisely and participate on an individual level, but will form a sort of club where, as a group, they impact the game more than the living players. And that's a really good feeling. To be excluded from the game, but to have more impact on the game than anyone else is exciting.
Hey Repod listeners, running an escape room is tough, but getting more bookings? That shouldn't be a puzzle. This is Jake from Weldwood Marketing. We design stunning, high-converting websites, run targeted ads, and boost your SEO so players find you first.
So when I was talking to Jake from Weldwood Marketing, David, I was really surprised that he told me they also have a package for people who are hosting like a pop-up event, like a one-off special event.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that too. And then I thought about it a little bit more and I thought, this is really clever marketing, which makes sense from a marketing company. It's not just that they're doing one-off events, which sometimes people really do need, but a one-off event is a discrete project, and it's a chance for a possible customer of his to go and say, you know what, I'm going to test out this Weldwood company and see how they do on one project. And if they're going to deliver, it'll be a whole lot easier for them to get you to come back and do your website and do the rest of your marketing campaigns with them.
And if anything, I actually think it's more important to invest in marketing for a special event because you only have that one chance to get your customers to come, right? With a standing business, maybe next month we'll pick it up. But with a one-off event, that's it. All of your eggs are in one basket, so you better make sure your marketing is on point.
PG, are you trying to remind me that literally every aspect of my business is built around events, and every single day I am living with the pressure of having to make sure that that event has been adequately marketed?
Yeah, no pressure, David.
Maybe I'm going to have to give Jake a call.
All right, Repod listeners, we love the escape room and immersive industry so much. We're doing something we almost never do at Weldwood Marketing. We're offering discounts. 15% off marketing services for your first 3 months and $750 off escape room websites. We wanted to make sure you have something special for being a fan of Repod. Go to weldwoodmarketing.com/Repod to schedule a discovery call with me, Jake, and let's take a full assessment of your online presence and find out ways that we can unlock some more money for you and your business.
Links and details in the show notes.
One of the things I really want to ask you about is you have created a type of character called travelers for players that turn up late or will need to leave early. This is one of the kindest game affordances that I have ever seen. Was this something that you knew you wanted to design at the outset, or did the need for this reveal itself to you through playtesting?
How about I give 2 answers?
Go for it.
Answer number 1 is that the idea of travelers came from the goodness of my heart when I saw a need for a game mechanic to allow people to participate in the way that they wanted to participate, which is often not for the full hour of the game or for the full 2 hours of the game. So it came from a motivation for inclusion. The second answer is that players turning up late is really irritating. It's just so irritating. And instead of delaying the start of the game for that one extra person, I made a traveller mechanic to allow people to join late so that we could just get the game started and they could turn up late. So you could take your pick.
Both of these are valid. When my wife and I host game nights, one of the things we put at the bottom of every single invite is a reminder that flakiness is weakness of character, because we got so tired of, we planned to play a game. It required a certain number of people. They all needed to be there at the same time. If one person failed to do that, then everyone's night got screwed up by that. And that is the standard in a lot of tabletop gaming. And so we had to get a little bit more aggressive with it, because we kept finding that we would put a lot of effort into planning an evening and inviting people over, and then it would start to crumble because just one person couldn't quite make it. And so I truly love this mechanic.
Yeah, it works too. I really love playing Travelers. It's one of my favorite characters to play. If you're a Traveler, you don't choose your own alignment. That's a balanced thing that the storyteller chooses. But you get to choose your own character. So it turns a problem, players turning up late or players needing to leave early. There's been a number of games where players have said, this is going to be a big game. This is going to go for an hour and a half. I'm probably going to have to leave after 45 minutes, but I still want to play. Is that okay? And with Travelers, I can say, yeah, that's not a problem. You enter the game and you leave the game when you wish, but it's not done in a way that is unbalanced. But Travelers also, they serve a second role, which is to allow players that they don't want to bluff or they don't want to participate in team-based deception, either due to anxiety or they're a new player that's unfamiliar with the rules or that they're not sure if this game is for them. I always pitch Travelers as, you've got all of the power and none of the responsibility. So I've made the Traveller powers really bombastic, really exciting. They have a big impact on the game, but they're really fun. So to be honest, I'm pretty proud of turning a downside to large games, which is the challenge of getting everyone in the same place at the same time, into an actual bonus where there are a lot of players that really want to be Travellers. There's a character called the Gunslinger. Every day when all the players vote, you get to immediately kill one of the players that just voted. It's really fun for the Gunslinger. It's really helpful for their team. They may be good or evil. But it changes the way that the game is played in a subtle and important way, whilst also giving the Gunslinger player just a fun and interesting thing to do. And if they don't like the game, they can leave after 20 minutes. And if they do like the game and they want to play again, they can play a full character in the following game. So I'm a big fan of Travellers.
Just kill someone and leave.
Yeah, just turn up, kill someone and leave. What's not to love?
We have a series of questions that came from our Patreon community. This is something we've not really ever done before, but we're going to present them to you as a lightning round. So hoping we'll do some quick hit answers on these and see if we can help people who love Blood on the Clocktower love it even more.
Okay, Chris Holland asks, I love running Blood on the Clocktower for friends, but I feel like there are always new players when I run it, so I really feel stuck using the Trouble Brewing rules, and I'm hesitant to use the other sets. Do you have any advice for getting past that hurdle?
Yep. PG, your question before was a great question, but this is a better question.
It's not mine. Not my question.
This is my absolute favorite question. If your group is all beginner players, feel free to run Trouble Brewing, Bad Moon Rising, or Sex and Violets. All the beginner players will help each other out, and the game will be fun. However, issues arise when you have some beginner players and some veterans, because with the advanced editions, the problem isn't so much that the editions are more complicated. The problem is there's a disparity between veteran players and beginner players. The veterans are just so much quicker. They figure things out, they take the lead, and then the new players will be left behind. So yeah, if all beginners, feel free to experiment with non-trouble brewing. Players will still have fun and they'll pick it up. If you've got one or two beginner players in a group full of veterans, use the Angel. The Angel is a fabled character that will protect the beginner players and help them have a good time. If you have one or two veterans in a group full of beginner players, use the Buddhist. The Buddhist will silence the veteran players for the first 2 minutes of each day. The veteran players still are allowed to participate, but the new players will take the lead and the veteran players will be in catch-up role. So Buddhist and Angel are your best friends for inclusion.
Those are fantastic tips. Jacob Sager Weinstein asks, as the storyteller, how do you keep the game moving without making players feel like you're cutting them off?
Cut them off.
Love it.
My number one rule is you may say whatever you want at any time. So as a storyteller, I very rarely silence the whole group. And I just say to the players, whenever I move into the center of the circle, it means I'm doing something important. I'll be running a vote or doing something equally important. Feel free to talk over me. Feel free to talk over each other. This is a talking game. But if I'm in the center of the circle and I'm running a vote and you miss out, that's your problem. So pay attention. So instead of trying to constantly silence the group, I just run the vote each day and I call for eyes closed when I'm ready and when I think it's best for the game, even if that means cutting off players. And the way that I look at it is if players are talking, it means they're having a good time. If you have a group that's very obedient and is always silent and paying attention to you at the drop of a hat, they're probably not having as much fun.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, just do what's best for the game.
We're running a tight ship here, folks.
Yeah.
Joel Taylor asks, do you have a favorite role or a role that you wish more people would play with and have more fun with?
My favorite role is probably Legion. I get asked this a lot and the answer's the same every time. You should put Legion in 100% of the games that you run. Beginner games, veteran games, 100% of the games should have Legion. But characters that I wish people would run more is Angel and Buddhist that I mentioned before. The fabled characters are designed to include very specific types of people, such as veteran players, beginner players, quiet players, and they work and they provide a good time for the people that want to have a good time.
Okay. Nikisha Johnson asks, what's something about Blood on the Clocktower that you're super proud of, but nobody ever asks about?
That's the best question so far. All right. Previous questions keep getting pushed down. I'm super proud of the character quotes and all the little hidden quirks and interesting things that I've put into the rule books that don't grab a lot of attention. If someone comes up to me at a convention and says, oh, I saw this little reference, or they ask about a character quote and they think, I think it means this, and they get it correct, that makes me feel really good.
That's who you did it for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Folks can purchase Blood on the Clocktower in tabletop form or back you on Patreon and have access to a digital version. The app is impressive in that it really does recreate so much of the experience of playing in person. It can never fully replace it, but it does a pretty good job. What was the most difficult part of designing a software version of your physical game?
I'm the designer of the physical game. The app itself has been developed by Stefan Baumgart and TPI as a team. The single most challenging element is that online, due to the way that audio works, only one person could talk at a time. In person, there's lots of differences. There's a lack of body language. There's a lack of presence. But in person, if you've got 20 people playing, the majority of the group can be focused on the storyteller running a vote or a major conversation, whilst 5 or 6 people can be talking quietly with each other or just mingling in the room. The atmosphere, it's like you're having a party and everyone's mingling and talking to each other. Online, only one person can talk at any one time because as soon as there's more than one person, you can't understand anything. So there's lots of systems that have needed to be put into place to solve this problem. There's social systems, for example, the rule that when a player is nominated, that only certain people are allowed to talk at once. There's private chats, which allow people to talk to each other technically all at once, but in a series of one-on-one conversations. There's whispers or text chat, talking with your neighbors. We've needed to implement a large number of ways to allow people to communicate with each other without interrupting the flow of conversation. And it's been incredibly difficult to do so. I've still got a couple of ideas I want to implement, but the more that we solve this problem, the better the player experience is.
I had a question about that because I did notice that in the online version, there is a feature that allows you to send private messages to the neighbors on your left and your right. And I was very curious about that because that doesn't seem to be a mechanic that existed in the physical game. So it just made sense that you wanted to give some additional avenues for people to communicate with each other.
It does. It's whispering.
What I'm hoping to do is I've identified several ways that people communicate in real life, and I'm trying to mimic those in the digital game. And one of the things you can always do is, no matter what's happening, you can always literally lean over and whisper to the player next to you without interrupting the flow of conversation. So being able to mimic that, if I allowed chat with every single player, not just your neighbors, then that's all the game would be. It'd just be typing all the time. So I'm hoping to mimic some real life, natural conversation flow in artificial means. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not, but we're doing our best.
Hey, escape room owners, are you looking to level up your marketing and operations? Buzzshot is an all-in-one solution for powering business growth and improving the customer experience. They offer a ton of pre- and post-game features, including waiver management, creating awesome branded team photos, and they can streamline review management for Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, wherever people review. They got you covered. And they also offer integrations with Cogs.
One of the things that I really appreciate about Buzzshot is its level of reliability. This is not a buggy platform that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. This is the kind of enterprise software that large chains and franchises should be operating on. And it is also priced in a way that is accessible for small businesses. When you're running multiple shops with lots of different employees in different locations, sometimes in different states, maybe even in different countries, the software that you choose is going to make the difference between whether your life as a business owner is going smoothly or whether you are constantly having to put duct tape on all of your systems. And I think that that is one of the things that should never be taken for granted with Buzzshot. Reliability is key.
Bob Melkus from Fox in a Box had this to say about Buzzshot. It didn't take us long to fall in love with the tools. We are now encouraging our franchisees to switch to Buzzshot.
Streamline your marketing and grow your escape room business. Repod listeners get an extended free trial and 20% off your first 3 months with no setup fees or hidden charges. Visit buzzshot.com/repod, that's REPOD, to learn more. Link and details in the show notes. Way back in season 3 of this show, we had Nordic LARP designer Johanna Koljonen join us, and she introduced us to the concept of playing to lose, which was rebranded for Americans as playing for the experience.
Because we don't like to lose, apparently.
Your company runs Blood on the Clocktower for so many people in so many different cultures. Do you see differences between how games are played in different countries?
Yep, very much so. I used to run a gaming group here in Sydney. The motto, which was in Latin for extra pretentiousness, was losing is fun.
Fantastic.
I made friends with the philosophy that losing is fun. Losing is evil, sometimes fun, sometimes not, but losing is good is incredibly fun. The best games that I've ever had in Clocktower, of my top 10, probably 7 of them was when I was on the good team and I lost. And you think you've won. You think you've got the game in the bag and you find out everything you thought was wrong. Not just evil people were good, good people were evil, but the web of bullshit that you believed. It's embarrassing. You're like, I cannot believe that I believed something so ridiculous. So losing is fun. Globally, this is a question that comes up a lot. What's more important, winning or having fun? And I think they're both important. America is a balance of desiring to win and desiring to have fun. In Australia, it's mostly the desire to have fun. In China, it's mostly the desire to win. The Chinese are much more competitive. You can play competitive werewolf. Celebrity competitive werewolf is big business. But I always phrase things as winning is the most important thing. But if you sacrifice being kind to people, or if you sacrifice having fun in that goal, then you've missed the point. If winning is the only important thing, then nobody's having fun. If having fun is the only important thing, then the players who want to win are getting left out. So I always say winning's the most important thing, but there is a minimum level of fun, a compulsory fun level of 7 out of 10, and a compulsory respect and kindness level that you can't go below.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's always both.
Related to this, are there strategies that are more or less common or effective that change between countries?
In China, the strategies are close to 100% rational strategies, sometimes intimidatingly so.
What do you mean by a rational strategy?
The game is played with a high degree of precision and high degree of rules knowledge, even down to which characters wake in which order at night. The level of focus on a large number of minute rules is intense, and the intricacies of minute rules are often used to win or lose a game.
Rules lawyering is a factor.
Yeah, but it's not really seen as rules lawyering, it's just seen as the way that the game is played. Whereas in India, the strategies are mostly social. The strategies are mostly about positive and intense social dominance. I'm the player that knows the most about this game. Trust me, I'm also the most charismatic. Most games are won or lost based on the usually good-natured, not always, but the usually good-natured social maneuvering of the players.
Building trust.
Building trust. Yeah, trust is a big one. In Australia, a lot of games are won or lost on shits and giggles. So you'll have players who'll be like, I actually don't believe you, but I think your bluff is so hilarious. I'm just going to go with it. USA has a really nice balance of both inside of a group and comparing groups. There's an interesting balance between social strategies, rational strategies, and shits and giggles strategies. You never know what you're going to get with the USA.
You're telling me.
So, Blood on the Clocktower feels like its success is really rooted in the fact that it is, at its heart, a very simple set of rules that leaves a lot of space for players to invent or combine different strategies. And this style of emergent gameplay really reminds me of Survivor. So in the very first season of Survivor, Richard Hatch decided to form alliances instead of just voting people out based on their survival skills or their challenge skills. And this really changed the way the game was played. What have been some unexpected strategies which the player community has since normalized, but you weren't expecting when first designing the game?
When I designed the game, I was designing categories. I wanted players to use information in a big way, but I was essentially designing categories of interaction with a view to emergent gameplay. So the kind of wiggly, nervous answer to your question is almost everything that has emerged was unexpected, because when I was originally designing the game, I was designing categories, knowing that they could be used in a number of ways, but not really expecting what was going to dominate. More recently, however, rules, strategies around night order, which characters wake in which order, which is a little interesting because the rulebook is written in a very tricky way to allow the storyteller to change the night order, which I do quite often. And a lot of conversation around vagueness of the good players' roles has really surprised me. I thought that the way that the game will be played 90% of the time would be all of the good players just share their roles, with one or two exceptions. I'm the fortune teller, I'm the empath, I'm the investigator, I'm the virgin. I thought the game would be played much more as a pool of information with a couple of outliers. And the way that the game has developed is good players usually give 3 characters that they might be, and they keep things very vague until they trust people. That was one very surprising development.
I would say that that's your basic strategy. When I play Blood on the Clocktower with regular folks, that's typically how it's played. When I play with other survivors, we have a very good series on YouTube where a bunch of survivors are playing Blood on the Clocktower, and these people are absolutely bonkers. Everybody lies about their roles. Nobody tells the truth. Everybody's role swapping. It's just so absolute beyond. And I can't even barely keep up with all of these new school players. But even there's tactics like star passing, which to me felt like an advanced strategy, but it's not. It does feel like you designed the role for something like that. And for people who don't know, star passing is when the imp or the demon will eliminate themselves, and then that role will pass to another minion. And it is a very good cover for you defending your bluff as being a good person. And so I don't know if this next question is kind of the same question or not, but I'll ask it anyway. Many of the strategies do encourage townsfolk, good players, to not only lie, but to also possibly eliminate themselves or known good players to gain information. So how much of that was intentional when designing the player roles? Did you know that the townsfolk would be doing such crazy acrobats, like killing themselves or killing each other just to get that information?
Yeah, that was pretty much the intent. I really like the idea of it was a deliberate attempt to take the sting out of dying. I didn't want this to be a game about players putting all of their effort into desperately convincing the rest of the group not to kill them. I wanted this to be a game about pooling information.
At any cost.
Yeah, even if you die. Like if you die, it's a little irritating. It's not a problem.
Right.
I wanted this to be a game where information is more important than staying alive, and actively encouraging players to kill themselves, whether they're good or evil. It takes the anxiety away, and the more confidence every player has, the more fun everyone has. But it also makes the game more interesting, because if a player dies at night, for example, you don't know for a fact that they're good. It could be an evil player that's killed themselves because they've judged that they'll be more trustworthy when dead, and they'll be in a better position to spread information. There's a character called the Sweetheart, and when the Sweetheart dies, one player is drunk and none of the players know which it is. So if you're an evil player and you kill yourself at night, you say, I'm the Sweetheart, one of you's drunk. It throws so much confusion, or I'm the Klutz, and now I'm dead, and when I die, I have to choose a player, and if they're evil, it's game over. Everyone loses their mind, and it's all bullshit. Like, it's just an evil player pretending to have this really negative effect on the game, and the fear from the good players that someone's drunk or the game's about to end is hilarious. So yeah, I really like the strategy of either good or evil players killing themselves and having appropriate incentive structures around that.
I think you've definitely accomplished it.
It's fun, it helps you win the game, and it just makes everything more interesting.
We're taking a moment to thank our sponsor, Hive, the race to save time. This is an online puzzle hunt based on the new sci-fi book Hive, the first novel in the Matters of Time series by award-winning author D.L. Orton. PG, how is this puzzle hunt going to work?
David, the only thing I love more than puzzle hunts are puzzle hunts where you can actually win money. There will be 3 rounds, and there are prizes for each round, even the easy one. Every player who completes the meta puzzle can enter a sweepstakes drawing for a cash prize. For the easy round, there's going to be 20 prizes of $25 each. For the medium round, there's 10 prizes of $50. And for the last round, there's going to be 5 prizes of $100 each.
There is a chance for absolutely everyone to win, not just the strongest puzzlers.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you don't have to feel like you're competing with the guys who are super, super fast, because I'm a good puzzler. I know I can get through to the end, but I know I'm not going to be first place. So this is great. As long as you can cross that finish line, you have a chance to win these cash prizes.
And the puzzle hunt itself is created by a trusted creator, friend of the show, John Brommels. He has written so many puzzle hunts. We love his puzzles, and we were so excited to help spread the news about Hive, the Race to Save Time, which will run from May 16th through the 26th, 2025. Purchase of the book or free alternative method of entry registration is required to participate, but the ebook is available for just 99 cents while the hunt is running. Go to hivebook.com game.com for details, and we'll have links for you in the show notes. Happy puzzling.
It's that time of the year, David.
You mean recon time?
Recon season! And this year we are doing recon from the comfort of your own home. That's right, folks. You can kick back. You don't have to wear pants. You can grab a glass of wine and enjoy recon from the comfort of your own living room.
Please put on pants, or at least don't let anyone see that you're not wearing pants. But yeah, it's really important to us that we give people from all around the world a chance to come to recon, that we have a low-cost event. It's free at the cheapest tier, and even the most expensive. This is about the recon team producing an event that is hyper accessible for everyone around the world to come join in. August 17th and 18th, 2025. There's no easier way to get access to so much information and so many wonderful people in the international escape room and immersive gaming movement. And you can learn more all about this at realityescapecon.com. Tickets are on sale now, and I hope to see you at Recon.
Come join us. Pants or no pants. What do you get when you cross puzzles, pals, and trivia? It's PG's Playhouse, our new show where we play games and explore interesting topics. If you love wordplay and learning about new things, check out PG's Playhouse, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
At $150, Blood on the Clocktower is not a cheap game, but it is beautifully produced, and the nuances of the way that you produced it really matter. Things like the felt backings aren't just there to make the game feel pleasant to touch. They have functional value because they keep pieces from moving around. How do you decide whether something is adding expense and luxury for its own sake versus what is needed to make the gameplay as intended?
Everything is functional. I haven't added anything in Blood on the Clocktower purely for luxury considerations. Everything that I've put in has some functional purpose. The felt was the best solution to stick the tokens to the box. We could have used magnets. It would have been heavy and expensive. We could have used suction caps or some other method to save cost. But the felt was the best. And so even though it was expensive to use, that's what was needed. The actual physical box that the game comes in is super high quality. It's thick cardboard, the glues. Mm-hmm. Like, I've ripped apart boxes to see how much stress that they can take, because the game box needs to survive hundreds of plays. If the game box falls apart after 10 games, yeah, you might have saved a bit of money from the more expensive version, but now you can't play the game. So the token boxes, where all the tokens sorted into, it looks like a little bit of extra luxury, but it's actually just a way to help the storyteller keep everything organized. So even though it looks like luxury, quality is really important to me. I've focused on making things as functional as possible and as easy as possible for the storyteller to set up a game and to sort everything that they have in front of them. That's my philosophy. From the outside, the rest of the team will probably be blowing smoke out of their ears right now because cost is always a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but when you get a group together to play Blood on the Clocktower, it is not a minor thing. You have to invite a lot of people, and most groups I know make a night of it. It's an event. So having a nice box makes it feel like it's worth its while to create an entire event around this game.
Yeah, that's the design of the box. A lot of the cost went not into the materials, but just into the design, into the art and graphic design. I pay my artist and visual team very well. And I wanted a work of art. I wanted not just a game, but a work of art that would feel like an interactive work of art. A big, bold grimoire that is the star of the show and has some gravitas to it. When it enters the room, people's jaws drop and the mood of the night changes when a copy of Blood on the Clocktower gets heavily slammed down onto the table.
Has a good effect. Speaking of slamming this box down on a table, playgroups and even conventions focused on Blood on the Clocktower have emerged around the world. And within them, some rather extensive communities. How does it feel to know that your game is bringing people together on such a profound level?
Awesome. The reason that I designed Blood on the Clocktower initially was to bring people together. That's what I needed in my personal life at the time. And with the increasing connectivity that technology provides us, we're dividing our attention between, to a large degree, solo or pseudo-solo activities online and using the internet to connect with other people. And we're at a point in history where there's never been a bigger opportunity to get together with like-minded people to share hobbies and interests in person. But there seems to be this invisible force preventing us from doing that. So I wanted Clocktower to bring people together from all walks of life in an environment that isn't a drugs and alcohol type of environment. So to hear these stories is just absolutely awesome.
I very much feel this because this is what room escape artists' core business is. The thing where we actually put most of our energy is around producing in-person escape room tours where people travel from all over to go to a destination together. And we bring large groups. The same thing with our convention. This is all about bringing people together. And there's a satisfaction that I never expected when we started doing it, but seeing it happen every single time, it gets me.
Yeah, and that's why people do escape rooms.
I agree.
There's a reason that people do escape rooms instead of an online puzzle. And there's a reason that people do escape rooms as a group instead of alone, is that providing the structure for people to have fun with their friends. And that's the future of gaming as a whole. But it's just what people want.
Agreed.
Once we've got food and shelter sorted, we want to have fun with our friends and we want to do it in person. And that's why people love escape rooms.
So on a related note to all of this, there are a number of different YouTube play channels. PG has mentioned the one that she has participated in, and we'll have that in the show notes. But many different operations have built some really serious productions around making recorded shows of Blood on the Clocktower. Your company sometimes provides professional storytellers to facilitate these games as well. Is this something you ever imagined would be one of the outcomes of these games? Or is this something that would shock your past self if you were to travel through time and tell the playtesting version of Steven that this is something that would be an outcome?
Playtesting version of Steven needs a lot more emotional support than this. Playtesting version of Steven needs a nap and about $20 million, I think. It was actually the other way around. When I started Blood on the Clocktower, I actually had a traveling escape room style game. I had huge hand-painted banners. Everything would fit in a medium-sized car, hatchback, and we would travel to birthday parties or to dinner party events and run Blood on the Clocktower. And we'd have huge 2-3 meter tall hand-painted banners. Like, I've got this lantern set up where the lights go on and off during the day phase, the night phase. Pre-recorded music that we would play. I've got a big glowing clock that turns red or blue as a coffee table that when the good or evil team wins. All this fake, sometimes real greenery and light, like the whole setup. And we would travel to people's places, running games for people live. And then the game as a physical product grew out of that experience. So I'm not shocked that we have paid events because that's where we started. I'm actually shocked the other way around that the game's become as successful on a product level.
Huh.
I had no idea. So when you said traveling escape room, you're not talking about an actual escape room. You were traveling around to different parties and events, and you were running Blood on the Clocktower, which didn't exist as a box game, and it just existed as maybe a set of rules that you would come and explain to the partygoers.
With the physical set.
Yeah. I found it useful to explain the game to people either as a traveling escape room or as a murder mystery dinner party. The puzzle element and the interactive element and the event tone that helped people to understand what they were getting into.
Oh, interesting.
I've still got most of the gear. If either of you come to Sydney, we can do a Blood on the Clocktower catered experience.
I would love to do that.
Oh my God, I would
Wow.
love nothing more. David, the next recon, perhaps?
Don't commit me to that. That's an expense, but I really want to go to Sydney. We have a lot of friends there.
Yeah, I'd really like to get back into this as a business. You know, having a fun and immersive live event that travels to people's places or to have a set-up venue where people can come and experience this.
I feel like there's a really interesting maybe brainstorming session we can do together in the bonus show.
Yeah, for real, I'd love to get into this as a business. I can't do it in Australia. There's just, the market for Australia is just not big enough. But either Europe or the USA, you guys go bananas for this type of stuff. It's great.
Stephen, what comes next for the Pandemonium Institute?
What's next for Blood on the Clocktower is, I'm very interested in live events and the ability for people to hire an official Blood on the Clocktower storyteller to come and run awesome events for people live in person. We've got expansions in the works and new characters and all sorts of additions, both on an accessory level and on a game design level for the game. I'm working on a couple of different games at the moment, some of which are social deduction games, some of which are in collaboration with some big names in the industry, and some of which are just me tinkering away with ideas I'm going to make work one way or the other. And I've just hired a new chief of operations for our company, which is helping me figure out both a company and game design vision for what we want to do. So one of the things that we had in the past was an unfortunate overextension of too many projects happening at once and nothing getting completed on time. So what I want to do now is to focus down onto the most important things and just get one thing done at a time.
Sounds like we have similar problems. I've also brought on operations people.
Yeah. It's the blessing and the curse of being a good brainstormer. Mm-hmm. Having lots of cool ideas means you get to pick the best one, but the tendency is to want to do everything.
Yeah. David understands that completely. So you've mentioned a whole bunch of things that you are working on. What's the best way for people to follow you and your work or connect with you, especially if they want to get more information on when to expect these new games?
The best way to follow Blood on the Clocktower is to look at bloodontheclocktower.com, the website, or look at Blood on the Clocktower, our YouTube channel. The best way to follow me, I have a Instagram and a Twitter where I post bits and pieces of game design Blood on the Clocktower trivia, updates for characters, and a few secret upcoming teasers for what's on the horizon for Blood on the Clocktower. I'm on Instagram and Twitter personally, and for Blood on the Clocktower, the website, for more Blood on the Clocktower type stuff.
Fantastic. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. At the top of the episode, I had said how I really felt dejected by social deduction games. It was a genre that I had written off as not ever going to be fun again. And Blood on the Clocktower did not just rejuvenate the genre, but it gave me a game that I truly love playing and love having as an excuse to get people together. And the level of thought and care that has gone into every aspect of this game, from the mechanics to the theming that it's wrapped in, to the production of the objects themselves, the love and thought that has gone into that is apparent in every single little bit of it. And as a player, I just truly appreciate what you have made. So thank you for that. And thanks for sharing all of your insights that you've had along the way with us.
Thank you for saying so. It means a lot to hear. This is my first game, and to hear that level of feedback and how much Clocktower means to people it's what keeps me going. So thank you.
This episode of Reality Escape Pod is produced by Teresa Piazza with support by Lisa Spira and our Patreon community. We're edited by Steve Ewing of Stand Inside Media, music by Ryan Elder, logo by Janine Proct, and all of this is brought to you by RoomEscapeArtist.com, your home for well-researched, rational, and reasonably humorous escape room and immersive gaming content and events. Boy, am I aware that everyone out there is competing for your Patreon dollars these days. And I gotta tell you, we benefit so much from our Patreon community, from the financial support and the moral support that they provide. We have grown so much over the last few years. And by grow, I really mean we've built a lot of infrastructure to make all of Room Escape Artist work so much better. And that is only possible because of our Patreon community. That is the bedrock that everything we're doing is built upon. And we are so deeply thankful to every single person who has joined. And if you have the money and you're able to, we will be so appreciative if you can put your support behind us.
And if you're loving our content, we do have more. We have the bonus after show where we continue the conversation with our guests, and it is a whole lot of fun. And if you want recaps, walkthroughs of specific escape rooms, we've got the Spoilers Club. That is one of my favorite shows to record because I get to really dig deep into these escape rooms, talk about how they're made, and just generally gush about what I loved about these wonderful experiences. Check out patreon.com/roomescapeartist for more details on our additional shows.
And a very big thank you to our highest level Patreon backers: Derek Tam, Breakout Games, Escaparium, Pat Dupin from Olivier Escape, Panic Room, Chris Laughlin, Rex Miller, Mark from Keystone Escape Games, Byron Delmonico, Karen, Kieran from Mystery Unfolds, and Andy Mincer. We truly appreciate your ongoing support. And finally, as we come around to this story at the end of the episode, if you have gotten this far and you have not yet left a 5-star review for us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go do so. It does so much to help signal to other people and to the algorithms that this show is worth listening to.
I had to think about my most impressive escape room experience, and I came up completely blank. The reason I came up completely blank is because I've had 0 experiences in an escape room where I figured anything out. I'm a deep thinker and I'm a lateral thinker, but I'm not a precise problem solver or like a conventionally intelligent thinker. And every time I go to an escape room, we went with TPI, and the rest of the team were on top of it. They were solving problems like bang, 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 bang. And it's half an hour in, and I'm still trying to look behind objects for vague hidden notes. Or I'm looking at the light bulb, trying to figure out whether it's flickering is some kind of Morse code. I'm completely off track. I didn't contribute to the solve in any capacity. I spend my entire time in an escape room absent-mindedly looking through drawers and looking at the art and being no help to my team whatsoever, but I still have a lovely time. One day there'll be an escape room where the chair and the table and the way that it was positioned is some subtle clue in the final round, and I'll have my day in the sun, my moment of glory.
You'll time to shine.
Until then, if you do an escape room with me, I will be 0 help. But I'll be literally trying my best.